Ethan never imagined that a single Instagram post could destroy everything he'd built over 3 years. He thought love was enough, that living together for a year meant they truly understood each other. But while he valued family and quiet moments, Harper lived for attention. Every like, every comment, every stranger's validation. When his mother fell ill, Ethan didn't hesitate. He packed a bag and stayed by her side in the hospital. Harper, feeling ignored, turned her frustration into a public performance. What started as passive-aggressive stories escalated into a full post, attacking Ethan and humiliating his mother in front of thousands. Ethan saw it while sitting beside his mother's hospital bed, the screen glowing in the dark like a warning sign he had ignored for too long. And that moment, cold, sharp, unforgettable, became the spark that set everything else on fire. While Ethan spent long days and nights at the hospital, most of his world narrowed down to the soft beeping of machines and the quiet rise and fall of his mother's breathing. He barely checked his phone, except to update his sister or respond to work. Meanwhile, Harper's irritation grew by the hour. At first it was subtle, short texts, passive complaints, delayed replies meant to make a point. But when Ethan missed a dinner date she had planned, everything snapped inside her. She opened Instagram, the place where she felt most powerful, and began typing with shaking fingers. What she posted wasn't a vague quote or a cryptic story. It was a full paragraph accusing Ethan of abandoning her, calling him emotionally unavailable, and hinting that his mother exaggerated her condition for attention. She added a picture of herself crying, carefully lit, as if pain needed a perfect filter to be taken seriously. Within minutes, comments poured in. Some comforted her. Some blamed Ethan without knowing a thing about him. A few asked who the toxic mother was. Harper liked those comments without hesitation. What she didn't expect was Ethan's response. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself, didn't call her. He simply commented under the post. Red flags indeed. Just 3 words. Cold. Final. Public. Harper froze when she saw it, her heart pounding with a mixture of embarrassment and fury. She deleted the comment, but not before dozens of people saw it. And not before someone took screenshots. But the worst part, the part that changed everything, was happening miles away. Ethan's mother, lying weakly on her hospital bed, had picked up her phone after receiving a notification. She wasn't a social media person, but she followed Harper because she wanted to support the young woman her son loved. When she opened the post, her hands trembled. She read every cruel word. She saw the comments attacking her character. She saw Harper encouraging them. Ethan walked into the room, just in time to see the look on his mother's face as she turned the phone toward him. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The silence between them was heavy, sharper than any argument. His mother locked her phone, placed it gently on the tray beside her, and stared at the ceiling with an expression that broke him more than the post ever could. Later that night, while Ethan dozed off in the chair beside her bed, his mother lay awake, thinking about the future. She had always believed Harper might one day become part of their family. She had even prepared financially for that possibility. But the woman she saw on Instagram was not the woman she thought she knew. Before dawn, she made a quiet decision. A decision that would ripple through all their lives. By the time the sun rose, the first spark of scandal was already spreading across Harper's social media profile. And nobody, not even Harper herself, had any idea how far the flames would go. Ethan visited his mother the morning after the post exploded, expecting to find her recovering from the emotional shock. Instead, he found her calm, almost too calm, as if she had already processed the hurt and moved on to something heavier. She invited him to sit, her voice soft but steady, and for a moment Ethan felt like a child again, bracing for news he didn't want to hear. She began by asking him how long he had truly known Harper. Not the number of years. The real knowing, the kind that revealed intentions, flaws, values. Ethan hesitated, unsure what she meant, until she folded her hands and revealed something he had never expected. Years ago, when Harper first became serious with Ethan, his mother had quietly established a trust fund. $400,000. A safety net for the young woman she believed would someday join their family. She explained that she did it because she wanted Harper to feel secure, to build a future, to have options regardless of life circumstances. Ethan sat frozen, shocked that such a huge decision had been made without him ever knowing. His mother gave a sad smile, saying she never wanted Harper to feel like she was being evaluated or tested. She wanted her to feel welcomed, appreciated, loved. But then her expression shifted. The softness faded, replaced by a firmness Ethan rarely saw. She told him that after reading Harper's post, after seeing her encourage strangers to mock a sick woman in a hospital bed, she realized she had misjudged her character completely. The betrayal wasn't just directed at Ethan. It was personal. It cut deeper than Harper could ever understand. His mother reached for a folder on the bedside table. Inside were documents Ethan didn't recognize at first. Amendments, signatures, notarized pages. She had stayed up half the night making phone calls, rewriting her will, and contacting her attorney. The trust fund was gone. Completely dissolved. Every cent, every dollar she had once planned for Harper, was being redirected to a cancer research foundation named after Ethan's father. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He felt a strange mix of anger, sadness, relief, and disbelief twisting in his chest. He asked why she didn't wait to talk to him first. His mother squeezed his hand and said that love makes people overlook red flags, but money has a way of revealing truth faster than anything else. Harper's reaction to stress, to feeling ignored, to being insecure, it all came out in that single post. And now, she said softly, they had to protect the family from someone who would use public humiliation as a weapon. Ethan didn't know what to say. For a long time, he just sat there, feeling the weight of everything collapsing at once. The woman he thought he might marry had just lost $400,000 without even knowing it existed. And she had no idea she had done it to herself. On the drive home, Ethan replayed the entire conversation in his mind. He realized that this wasn't just about money. It was about who Harper truly was when she wasn't performing for an audience. He didn't know how she would react when she eventually learned the truth. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Nothing in their relationship would ever be the same again. Harper was packing the living room when Ethan returned home, her arms crossed tightly as if she were physically holding herself together. She didn't ask about his mother. She didn't ask if he was tired or hungry. She only asked why he hadn't responded to her messages, her voice sharp enough to slice through the air. Ethan tried to stay calm, explaining that he had spent the night at the hospital and needed time to process everything. But Harper wasn't listening. She launched into a rant about how humiliated she felt after people saw his comment. She accused him of making her look unstable, even though she was the one who had made their issues public. Ethan took a deep breath and told her they needed to talk seriously. That was when he mentioned the trust fund. The moment the words, $400,000, left his mouth, Harper fell silent mid-argument. Her expression shifted so quickly it startled him. Shock, confusion, and then something colder, sharper. She asked why he had never told her. Ethan said he didn't know either, that it had been his mother's private decision, something meant to support their future. Harper's hands trembled. Not from sadness. From anger. She demanded to know what happened to the money. Ethan hesitated, but he refused to lie. He explained that after the Instagram post, his mother revoked the trust entirely. For a full second, Harper didn't breathe. Then she exploded. Her voice rose to a pitch that echoed off the walls, accusing Ethan of turning his mother against her, sabotaging their lives and ruining her future. She screamed that his family never liked her, that they were jealous of her online presence, that they never respected her success. Ethan stared at her, stunned. She wasn't upset about hurting his mother. She wasn't remorseful about the public humiliation she caused. All she cared about was the money she never even knew she had. He tried to explain that the trust had been a gift, not an obligation. But Harper wasn't listening anymore. She hurled insults at his mother, calling her manipulative and dramatic. She accused Ethan of being weak for running to mommy and choosing family over her. And then she made the mistake that sealed everything. She pulled out her phone, hit record, and began filming a story, teary-eyed, angry, twisting the truth into a narrative where Ethan was the villain. Ethan froze when he realized what she was doing. He reached out gently, asking her to stop. She pulled away and shouted at him not to touch her, threatening to expose everything if he didn't cooperate. That was the breaking point. Ethan felt something crack inside him, something that had been under strain for months. He walked to the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and began packing. Harper followed him, yelling, crying, bargaining, blaming, cycling through every emotion like a malfunctioning storm. But Ethan didn't stop. He zipped the bag, slung it over his shoulder, and said quietly that he was done. Truly done. Harper screamed after him as he walked out the door, but her voice sounded distant, hollow, already fading. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt the air outside fill his lungs like freedom. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for certain. He could no longer build a future with someone who destroyed the present for attention. Harper didn't collapse after Ethan walked out. She pivoted. She redirected all her rage into strategy, convinced that she could still come out of this as the victim. The very next morning, Ethan received an email from a law firm he had never heard of. Harper had hired an attorney and was accusing him of financial neglect, claiming she had depended on him for support and that he had abruptly abandoned her without providing stability. Ethan stared at the email in disbelief, wondering how a relationship that lasted 3 years had turned into a legal threat in less than 24 hours. But things escalated even further when Harper's mother showed up at his workplace. She marched into the lobby, loudly demanding to see him, insisting that he owed Harper financial security and that he needed to return the inheritance. Ethan had to be escorted out through a side exit by security, while coworkers whispered and watched the chaos unfold. It was humiliating, absurd, and deeply unsettling. But Harper wasn't done. She booked a slot on a local morning TV segment, framing herself as a young woman betrayed by a man who had promised her a future. She cried on camera, told the hosts she had been emotionally manipulated, and implied that Ethan's mother had been abusive toward her. None of it was true. But the segment aired anyway, clipped and shared across social media, gaining thousands of views. Ethan's phone buzzed nonstop, with messages from friends asking what was happening. He wanted to defend himself, but he also didn't want to stoop to Harper's level. However, his mother refused to let lies define their family. While Harper painted herself as a victim on television, Ethan's mother gathered every screenshot, every post, every comment Harper had written during her angry outburst. And then she did what Harper never expected. She went public too. She released the screenshots in a clear, organized timeline, showing the insults Harper had written, the encouragement of hateful comments, and the fabricated victim narrative she had pushed online. She didn't add dramatic captions. She didn't attack Harper personally. She simply posted the truth. Within hours, people who had originally supported Harper began questioning her story. The TV station picked up on the backlash and issued a correction on their website, stating that certain claims made by Harper were unverified and potentially misleading. Harper erupted online again, accusing Ethan's mother of harassment, but her posts now sounded desperate, frantic, and inconsistent. Some of her own followers began unfollowing her, commenting that they didn't want to be part of the drama anymore. Ethan watched all of it unfold from a distance, exhausted but relieved that the truth was finally visible. He never expected his breakup to become a public battle, nor did he expect his mother to be dragged into it so violently. Yet somehow, despite everything Harper threw at them, the truth held steady. And for the first time, Ethan began to understand how dangerous Harper's hunger for attention truly was. She wasn't just hurting people close to her. She was willing to burn down her entire reality if it meant staying in the spotlight a little longer. Harper's online collapse didn't slow her down. It pushed her into a new level of desperation. When the TV segment began losing traction and people questioned her story, she decided she needed a bigger, more dramatic move to regain sympathy. So she turned to crowdfunding. She created a GoFundMe titled, "Rebuilding My Life After Financial Abuse." And in the description, she wrote a long, emotional paragraph claiming that Ethan had taken away her future, stolen inheritance money meant for her, and left her with nothing. She set the goal for $400,000, the exact amount she had never known existed until it was gone. The page went live with a carefully staged picture of her looking devastated, and she shared it across all her social platforms. At first, a few people donated small amounts out of pity, but most were hesitant. The timeline didn't add up. The story felt rehearsed. And the screenshots Ethan's mother released were still circulating. But then something unexpected happened. Rodrigo, a musician and minor influencer who had been flirting with Harper online for months, suddenly entered the scene. Harper had once confided in him privately during a late-night conversation, trying to make him jealous by painting her relationship with Ethan as unstable. She told him about the supposed inheritance, suggesting she was trapped with Ethan because his family controlled her future. Rodrigo had believed her at the time, even comforting her and offering support. But when he saw the GoFundMe campaign and realized she had twisted the story into something far more dramatic and entirely false, he felt used. Instead of staying silent, he posted screenshots of their conversations. He explained how Harper had manipulated him, how she hinted that she deserved a large payout from Ethan's family, and how she exaggerated every detail for attention. The screenshots spread faster than Harper's GoFundMe link. People flocked to the donation page, not to help, but to report it. GoFundMe launched a review, and within hours the campaign was flagged for fraudulent claims. The next morning, the entire fundraiser disappeared. All donations were refunded. Harper woke up to hundreds of angry comments accusing her of lying, manipulating, and exploiting serious issues for money. She tried posting a video claiming that Rodrigo had misunderstood her words, but the evidence was too clear. Followers began unfollowing her in waves. Brands she had collaborated with in the past quietly removed her from their pages. Her name started appearing on a Reddit thread dedicated to exposing online scammers. Ethan saw it all but stayed silent. He no longer needed to defend himself. Harper's actions were doing that for him. Meanwhile, Harper spiraled, posting frantic stories that contradicted her earlier statements, insisting she was the real victim, begging people to believe her. But the internet had turned cold. The sympathy she desperately chased was gone. People were no longer laughing or cheering. They were watching in real time as Harper's carefully curated persona cracked apart. And for the first time, even her most loyal followers began to wonder if Harper had ever told the truth at all. Harper's downfall didn't happen overnight, but it moved with the momentum of a train she could no longer stop. After the GoFundMe scandal, she tried to recover her image by announcing a new life direction. She claimed she had outgrown the toxicity of her past and was ready to help others heal. So she launched a coaching service called Inner Rise, promising emotional clarity, empowerment, and personal transformation. She spent nearly all of the $8,000 she had inherited from her aunt on branding, online courses, and a slick website filled with inspirational quotes. She rented a small studio for photo shoots, bought props, and paid for targeted ads. But nobody signed up. People still remembered the fundraiser scandal. The screenshots hadn't disappeared. Her reputation was radioactive. Within 2 months, the entire venture collapsed. The website shut down because she couldn't pay the subscription fees. The studio ended her rental contract, and the last of the inheritance money vanished into a pile of unpaid invoices. With her online presence dwindling, Harper shifted her strategy again. She began joining high-end dating apps, hopping to find a wealthy man who hadn't heard of her. She polished her profile, wrote a carefully crafted bio, and used old photos from when she still had professional lighting and confidence. For a while, she managed to get matches with successful men, executives, entrepreneurs, wealthy heirs. But every time she began talking to one, the same thing happened. They Googled her name. They saw the drama, the accusations, the fundraiser scandal, the TV interview, the contradicting stories. And then they unmatched. Some even sent her links to the Reddit thread before blocking her. The humiliation ate at her, but she kept trying, convinced she just needed one person to save her from the freefall. Meanwhile, her following dropped from 3,400 to 800. Her engagement plummeted. Brands she once promoted for small sponsorships no longer replied to her emails. Her landlord raised the rent, and she couldn't keep up. Finally, with no savings left, Harper packed her things into the back of her mother's car and returned to the house she swore she would never live in again. She took 2 retail jobs, one at a clothing store, one at a supermarket, just to scrape by. She worked late shifts, sometimes closing the store at midnight and waking up at dawn for the next job. Her feet ached. Her pride hurt more. She still posted occasionally, but the views were low and the comments were worse. People mocked her. Others pitied her. Some asked if she was planning another fundraiser. Through all of this, Ethan continued building a quiet, steady life. He got promoted at work. He started dating a kind, grounded woman who valued privacy and peace. His mother recovered fully, and their home felt warm again without drama bleeding into every conversation. Harper watched from afar through fake accounts, seeing Ethan smile in photos with his new girlfriend, seeing him flourish. And it burned. But every time she tried to blame him, or his mother, or the world, something stopped her. Because deep down, beneath all the denial and anger, she knew the truth. Everything that happened, the scandals, the losses, the humiliation, had sprouted from her own hands. From her posts, from her lies, from the persona she built and then couldn't control. And now, she was living in the ruins of the attention she had once craved. Ethan's life slowly settled into something calm, steady, and quietly joyful. He moved into a new apartment filled with soft morning light, started cooking dinner with his new girlfriend, and spent weekends visiting his mother, who had regained her strength and spirit. The money that once sat in a trust for Harper now lived on as a cancer research fund named after Ethan's father, supporting patients and families who truly needed help. It became a source of pride rather than pain. Harper, meanwhile, tried reaching out to Ethan through long emails that swung between apologies and accusations. Some messages begged him to talk. Others blamed him for everything she had lost. Ethan never replied. He had learned that not every story deserves a second chapter. In quiet moments, he sometimes wondered how things might have been different if Harper had chosen honesty over attention. But the thought always faded quickly. Because every part of her downfall had been built by her own hand, post by post, lie by lie. And Ethan finally understood that peace often begins where chaos ends.